For the graph, state the open intervals where it is increasing, decreasing, and constant. If a graph doesn't have an increasing, decreasing, or constant interval, type D and E for does not exist. So for this particular graph, we have some different segments of lines. And these segments of lines are depicted between closed circles. But do be careful in that the question is asking for the open intervals where it's increasing, decreasing, and constant. So in the end, we don't want to include those endpoints. That's a common mistake when answering the final answer. So let's take a look at the intervals where the graph is increasing. So increasing is pretty straightforward. The graph is increasing where it is going up in values. So these lines are tilted upwards. So that's where it's increasing. It's just answering that is what students have troubles with. So we answer only in terms of the x-axis portion where that's occurring. So it's starting here at -10, and this segment ends here at -7. So the increasing interval there is only the interval on the x-axis. So we include that as part of our increasing segments. So from -10 to -7, and notice I use parentheses because that was requested as open intervals. Next, I have an interval from here to here, and it starts at -6, but we don't include the endpoint because it just requested open intervals only, and then we go to -2. And then all the points in between, the function is increasing there. It doesn't matter how much it's increasing. That's not what's being asked. It doesn't matter the 2, that we're going from 2 to 4 on the y. We don't need to include that information. So students will often try and do that. They'll say from the point -6, +2 to the point -2, 4. But you don't need to include the y information. You just need the x. So the next set of values goes from -6 to -2. And the final set that's increasing begins here at 7 and ends here at 12. Then it's all the points in between there. So the final set for increasing is from 7 to 12. And of course, we're still using only open intervals. Now, decreasing segments, the graph is decreasing here, and it's decreasing on this range here as well. But again, we only answer in terms of the x-axis. So this point has an x value of -13, and this point has an x value of -10. So we're decreasing on that interval from -13 to -10. And then we're also decreasing on the interval starting here and ending at this point here. And it's all the values in between there, but not including the endpoints because it stated it wanted open intervals. Now, the one thing you have to be careful of is to make sure you're reading the graph from left to right. So if you're reading the graph from left to right, the values here in the y are going down, so we're decreasing. If you start reading from right to left, which is the wrong way, it looks like the values go in the opposite direction. So it looks like from right to left, these are decreasing. So in order to make sure you have increasing and decreasing correct, always read the graph from left to right. Now, intervals of constant. To have an interval of constant, we would have to have had an interval that was a horizontal line. But that didn't exist in this one. So the constant intervals, we say, do not exist.